Hey everyone, Sawmill Charlie. Trying to get things set up here. And welcome to another Friday Night Bee Chat. Hey, Danny Newburn, and we've got Clay and DC and Keith and there's Dennis, Sherelle, and let's see, we got Nancy. And there's Mike, Tytrone, hey there, Roy. And we got Tar Heel here. And there's Todd. I'm going to go ahead and drop the link. See what we can do here. Copy. And it's pinned. Everybody can come in. Here comes Mr. Bill.
Good evening, everybody. I don't know if Roy saw the joke that I put up there or not.
What's that?
I don't know if Roy saw the joke I put in the comments or not.
I don't know. What did you put in?
He was talking about it was too cold to sit on a porch. And if you remember the Tonight Show with Johnny Carson at all, he would ask his sidekick, how cold was it? And his sidekick would say, well, I really don't know. And then Johnny Carson would answer, it was so cold, I saw a robin dipping his worm in Nestea iced tea.
So, anyway, well, another week has went by. A little bit warmer today, in the 80s, I think. Yesterday it rained about, I don't know, 20 minutes or so worth. It's supposed to rain tomorrow afternoon.
Yep.
Roy says he saw it.
Yeah, I saw that.
So, for me here in Maryland, hey, Darren, it's supposed to be mid-70s starting Sunday and going for 5 days like that. So it's been about, I think 3 weeks, maybe close to 4 since the last Apricot treatment was taken off. 1, 2, 3. It's been 4 weeks. So I am going to apply Formic Pro, both strips, like I normally do, Sunday morning, and getting that on board. And by the 5th day, while being it cool, it'll be great for the bees. It won't flash so much. And within 5 days of being only 75 or so degrees, the major flash points will be over with.
Yep.
And the bee should tolerate it wonderfully. Roy says by Tuesday it'll be back in the 70s so he can check the results of forming. Oh, that's good. You'll have to bring that back to us next week, Roy, and give us a report.
Yeah.
Now, what are you using? Drop boards? Hey there, Lynn. And or using a alcohol wash or whatever, however you're checking it. And all.
If Will comes on here tonight, you need to get him to tell you about how Pennsylvania does it. How the inspector did it with him today.
Well, he's already sent me photographs so I can put up So let everybody see what they use, and he
Yeah.
will be coming in a little while.
Yeah, I talked to him today after his inspection.
Yeah, I
Hey,
think
Highland.
he did talk about getting inspected last year or last week, I guess it was.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not sure why, but I think they have to get inspected to sell nukes and queens and stuff like that.
Yep.
That's one good thing about Maryland. We don't have to do all that stuff.
Yeah, we have to do it in Virginia.
Well, if we ship over state line, I have to get my nukes inspected. But if it's in house or in country, we're
Hey,
fine.
Ian, how are you tonight? Good to see you in here.
Yeah, good to see you, Ian. And all. And then Pennsylvania has the honey house things for packing honey, and Maryland's like, man, just put it in the bottle.
Yeah.
Well, I'm glad that you like that, Nancy, not me. Less government, the better I like it. So anyway, so anything happening down in the deep south then?
The schedule for the conference is posted on the Virginia State Beekeepers website.
Well, finally.
Yeah, finally.
Because I've been sitting on the fence on that, as you know.
Yep.
It keeps the haters in line. What haters is that?
What are you talking about, Nancy?
We're talking about she likes the having the fact that they have inspectors in Pennsylvania. Ian got an inch and a quarter rain. Cool weather has slowed grain harvest. Well, I'm sure of that.
I bet it did.
And then
What did your moisture levels? Did it drive them up or did they stay down low?
Well, a quarter inch of rain, I think you have to wait and do any more combining at that thing.
Oh, yeah.
And there's my newest friend, I'll call him, the Southern Maryland beekeeper. I found him on YouTube. He's got about 15 subscribers, I think.
That's good.
Check his honey's extracted, Ian said.
Yep, that's even better, Ian.
Anyway, he's putting out videos, and he's doing quite well. He's making his own queens this year and doing pretty good with that, and did some different splits and has been growing his hive and everything. So he's coming right along.
Are you keeping that old combine together good, Ian? Is it holding together for you?
Probably is.
I like watching the videos of that old combine in it.
Yeah. Looking up something here. So.
Evening, Tom and Melissa.
What's that?
The shoe on that old combine shook loose. Wintertime project. Hey, at least you're keeping it together, right? You're keeping it running. And it's good to see that old of a combine running.
What shoes? What was that? What shoe would that be on the combine?
If I'm not mistaken, that old combine they used to call it a shoe, on the rotor that would either beat the grain off the corn or it thrashes the wheat.
You're talking about the beater, but before you
Yeah,
hit
it had the terminology has changed over the years. Inside of a combine, you have a rotor
well,
that
you got
has
a
beaters on it. They call them beaters now. They used to call them shoes a long time ago.
I
And
always
that's what would knock the grain off the cobs,
well
or
that's
it would thresh the wheat.
well I call that the cylinder.
Yeah, see,
Yeah.
those were the good old days.
Yeah, let's see if I can get. I'm gonna go back to SOMD.
Ian, have you ever seen the old thrashing machines that were run by steam engines? Hey, Southern New Zealand's back tonight.
I forget what Southern Maryland beekeeper. What's your first name? I think is it Josh? I forget. I hate just calling you that. Oh. Um. He was a regular, yeah, probably an old thrash.
My grandfather had one, Ian, and they were a lot of work.
Dave. Okay, Dave. So, Dave, if you got any questions or things, just let us know. You can either type them in, and I invite you to come. And there's a link up at the top that you can link in if you got a camera. I know you got a camera. Hopefully, a camera on your computer. And then there's Tom and Melissa. Yay. And we've only got 49 people in here, but and I'll mention this later on tonight as we grow in numbers. Melissa has put up the tickets for the No Life Beekeepers dinner. I forget what it's called now. They've been choosing names out in Louisville, Kentucky for the at the Nobby convention, and also there's a on the No Life Beekeepers Facebook page. There's a in there you can click on the link, and it'll basically ask you, are you going or interested in that kind of thing. And then also there's the link in for the tickets. The tickets are free. It just gives Melissa and everybody who's sort of organizing this stuff a head count, because they will have a cutoff. I'm not sure what the is, but
Well, the way the ticket thing looked on the line online was when I got mine, it was 171 seats left. So I think it's 200. Am I correct, Melissa?
well, they were talking about it a little bit last night. I heard on Ricky's show, and the way the contract read and stuff. I think they got to keep it slightly under 200 people.
Yeah.
I think it's the way it was. Well, I can tell you, everybody, I have been to the location where the place is going to be, where the party's going to be, 175.
Yeah.
And the location is basically an event hall. And there'll be plenty of room, plenty of seating for everybody. And we won't be like a bunch of bees in a hive crawling all over top of each other. But Well, Rick, it's due to more of a contract clauses, from what I gather, as far as the amount of people and that kind of stuff. There's Mr. Will.
Hey guys,
Will. You have good dinner?
pizza, and I'm finishing off dessert is some sourdough bread with some homemade peanut butter and I think Sawmill Charlie's honey on top. So that's my dessert tonight.
Cool.
Go ahead, don't let me interrupt you guys.
Now, I was just reading Southern Maryland beekeeper, which is David is his first name. He doesn't have a camera net yet, but he'll try to answer or ask any questions if he thinks of any. And to kind of give you a heads up, David, I mean, we talk about everything. We're talking about raising queens. We talk about varroa mite treatments, anything you can think of when it comes to beekeeping. This is sort of a intermediate to advanced beekeeping chat. So we, like I say, and if anybody's more or less a beginner and has some beginner questions, we answer their questions also. And all.
Man, you got to send me some of that sourdough bread.
I love that sourdough bread.
I do too. I love it. Problem is, it doesn't love me.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I can usually get away with it as long as I sweat it off,
Yeah.
Where'd you get the bread at?
Oh, I have a place called what is it? Whispering Pines. I like to get it. It's a little north of me. We usually get it on the way back and forth to camp. That's where I get the peanut butter too. But otherwise it's Walmart or wherever I can find it, sourdough. Hey, Clay. Let me wolf down my bread and then I'll kind of talk my way through that picture I sent you, Charlie.
All right. Hey, Keith. Barnhill.
Yeah, banana bread's always a hit. Banana bread, zucchini bread. Oh, my goodness. Build a sourdough get your sugar, or does it get your gut?
Sugar.
Okay. Any bread will get your sugar, probably.
Yeah, that gets it worse than any of it, though.
Oh, really? Okay.
Probably made with honey.
Huh? Probably because the honey I put on it?
Could be.
Maybe. Human hair in it, like the other breads. That was a good one, Darren.
So I got inspected today, and that's the first time with the new inspector in my area. I think he's been here about a year, and he just got around to me. You know what I mean? I'm due for inspection, so this was my first time with my local Southern PA state inspection, right?
So where'd he come? You say
Go
he's
ahead.
new?
Nah, he's been on the job, I think, over a year. It's just this is the first time I've had him, you know what I mean, for inspection. So it was interesting. We started with the hives that are new to me, like in the last month or 6 weeks, whatever it was. And they're kind of in my quarantine yard where I wanted to make sure I got them squared away before I push them out to my other apiaries. It's close, it's easy, so on. So we started inspecting, and I got, he passed me on my inspection. We looked specifically at these 2 different yards, and we're going to, look at more yards as it goes, but I think I'm sitting around 160 right now, so you can't do all them in a day, but I got my approval on all that. But he tested mites, and I'm kind of fascinated a little bit how he tested mites. because he had a regular, mite wash kit like you can buy. I think it was the blue version versus a yellow version. But he also whipped out a couple of quart mason jars, the big mouth style, and he had the tops that go on them, and then he had some 1/8-inch metal cloth cut out that would fit between the ring and the jar. You know what I mean? Like, instead of having a pressure seal or one that drips or whatever, it had a screen over it, and it would almost remind you of like a big salt shaker or a big pepper shaker. You know what I mean?
Well, that's what they used to use when they were doing mic checks with sugar powder.
Okay. So he poured alcohol. He uses alcohol. So he put alcohol in the one mason jar, and we did our scoop of bees, dropped them in the alcohol, and he put a sealing cover on it. So it was sealed up. And I'm just going to kind of go through this process for you guys, you know what I mean? And then we can figure it out. But so he shook that, and I was like, are you a swirl guy or are you like a cocktail drink shaker guy? And he said, I'm both. He said, right now on this with a sealed top, he said, I'm a cocktail shaker guy. So he was shaking it up and down, and he timed it on his watch for a minute. He shook that thing up and down, and that's a pretty violent shake. Okay. So popped the top off of that, and he put this fine, it was very fine. It looked like a honey mesh screen like you'd use on your coming out of your cappings tank over a bucket. And he put that over another quart largemouth jar. And he said, I'm going to pour the fluid out of this. And he said, I want to look and see if any mites come out with the fluid. So stainless steel, pretty fine mesh. I mean, pretty darn fine. And poured the top off, poured all the juice out of it. And we didn't get any mites that came out at that point. Okay. So looked in the screen, nothing in the screen, looked in the jar, nothing in the jar. So he poured the alcohol back in on the bees again, and he screwed this top on. He screwed a top on that had an 1/8-inch, instead of having the sealing plate on it, on the jar, it had this 1/8-inch hardware cloth on it. So he started doing his swirl method on this. Okay. And he swirled, and he timed it with his watch. I mean, he swirled this time for a minute. And then when we were done, okay, now, so you have kind of a strainer over the top of it, or right, with this 1/8-inch metal cloth. So he poured the alcohol out again, and we looked into the top, into the bottom, into the sides, looking for mites. Okay. And Charlie, this is my most recent, to me, bees that we were testing. Okay. No mites. Now, I just about 10 days ago had put 50 grams of Apogard. Okay. So we pour them through. Now, all these bees are still up in this other mason jar. They're held in by the 1/8-inch hardware cloth. No bees in the alcohol. So he sets the alcohol aside, and he lays out a couple of white paper towels. And then he turns that jar upside down and shakes it down, in the direction of this big white paper towel that we had laid out. And he said, this is where I find most of my mites. So he shook and he shook and he shook and he shook. And we ended up.
We're talking about the wet bees are in there, but no juice.
No juice. The juice is poured out, but they're still wet. And it would remind you of shaking a salt shaker with the rice grains in it. You know what I mean? And he just kept shaking and kept shaking and kept shaking. And I don't have a time for how long he shook them down, but he shook them down for a good long while. Let's say he shook them down for a minute. And he said, this is where I find most of my mites. And to our happiness, we found one mite in this whole, looking at it twice, looking at the juice twice, shaking them down. We found one mite. So he told me, he said, well, your Apogard is being very effective because we only found one mite in these bees, and I have no idea when they were treated last or where they were at. So to skip ahead, right, this was a new process for me. I did the swirl method, and then I'd look up, you know what I mean? And occasionally I'd dump the bees out and I'd count to see if there's 300. And surprisingly, most of the time there were. But I would always look at the bottom of that, the plastic jar that comes with it to get my mite count. And, I told you guys in the spring that, I couldn't find a mite I think it was the end of May. And, but anyway, so this is very different, using mason jars and shaking these bees out like they're in a big salt shaker, to find mites. So we go up to my other yard that had three rounds of Apigard. I think it was a 30 because it was hot. Then it was a 35 and a 35. Okay.
Right.
One colony up in that yard, we got one mite, in the alcohol, doing the same process, right? Dumping them in the alcohol, doing this vigorous cocktail shake, pouring them through the strainer, looking at the fluid, putting them back in the fluid, doing the swirl, pouring it all out. We ended up with 12 mites in that colony when he did the shake. We only came up with one when we were doing the shake and the swirl, the cocktail shake and the swirl. But when he shook that one out, wet bees behind the 1/8-inch hardware cloth down on this white paper towel, for whatever the reason, we ended up with 12 mites total. So, needless to say, I am super glad to have found that, because 12 mites in a wash is a colony that's probably not going to make it. I'm kind of sad that they already had their Apigard treatments, and that's what I got. I don't know if I did something wrong. I don't know.
Now, think of it this way. Think that they were severely populated with mites, and you've knocked them down to that point with Apigard.
Absolutely. So now, not being satisfied with that, I'm going to do my every 4 days for 7 rounds of vaporizing OA in them. So at least I know now to do that. Kind of the moral of the story that I wanted to talk to you, I wanted you guys to kind of hear this, kind of what my experience was, because fat, dumb little Willie would have just done that swirl, probably not found any mites, and would have been fat, dumb, and happy thinking that I'm in good shape for winter. Now, this is probably a much more thorough, much more involved, much more detailed, way to read what you have on your bees. So now I'm going to go around and I'm going to spot check my other apiaries, to see if I come up with, what my mite readings are as well. But it shocked me, both to see how he did it, and then to find one of my colonies that I thought was good was not good when we did it.
Well, that's why I hit them with Formic Pro, because it's more of a brood treatment, because as science is saying that, 80% of your mice are underneath the capping. So I know on the other chat that I'm on previous to this one where I get on, they had a discussion about this, and actually it was a video I watched of the bee meeting, and the one guy was saying, well, treat from what the inspection said, the shake, and the other guy said, you know what, we did a shake and we had 1 mite where it was 0 mites, but when we did a visual of the drone brood that was probably on top of the frames, because they didn't have a drone frame in there, that drone brood was loaded with mites. So when you used a pick and picked it out and all that out of the or broke it open when you pulled the boxes apart. So, was the shake in that instance correct or accurate? And it wasn't, because you had all these, drone mites in the drone brood. So, sounds like this method here that this guy has is even more I mean, it gives you a better reading. I won't say how accurate it is, but it gives you a better reading.
Yeah, it's a more it came across to me that it was a much more aggressive shaking of the bees, moving the bees around, putting the bees kind of, to try and get those mites off of them that they release, and that then you can count them.
Did you want to bring the pictures up now, or?
Well, if you want to bounce them up, it's fine. It was just I just took a simple picture of his setup. It's a wash tub with a honey screen in it. And I'm not sure in the detail if you can really see how he's got the 1/8 inch metal cloth, you know what I mean, over top of some of the jars. I just sent it to you that, it'd be something we could look at if we wanted to.
Yeah, let's see. We got it here.
I think those jars, actually, one of them has the 1/8 inch metal cloth on it. I don't know that we can get in that far, though. I just kind of snapped a picture of it when I was putting it in his truck, just so that it would help jog my memory, for how I'm going to set up to test. I want to do similar tests like this for all my mites now. This is going to be my new version of testing.
Right. I had it up there, but
Yeah, Mark had made a comment earlier. I am going to wait a couple weeks before I start my OA just to get any residual thymol. I'm hoping to get any residual thymol out of it before I start hitting them.
let's see if we can get it a little bit bigger.
And like I say, it's nothing really. It's just the wide mouth jars, and I think that one on the bottom, you may be able to see the 1/8 inch metal cloth on it.
Now he's all right. He's got this strainer here, which is a 5-gallon honey strainer.
Yep.
And what did he do? Use that to pour the fluid through?
That's what we did on the first initial run. Was we used that to pour from the jar that the bees were in. We poured through that into a second jar, and that was like the very first high level, kind of look. That was the very first filtering of the juice. And the idea being is you want to pour it through that, and that's where you start your count, if you will. You know what I mean? You pour that through, and we would have counted however many bees are there, and then he would have poured that fluid back in. It was just kind of his process of working through to identify, all the mites that you had.
There we go.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know that you can really tell, but basically that wide mouth jar in the bottom, I believe that's the one that had the 1/8 inch hardware cloth on it. He had a couple pieces of 1/8 inch hardware cloth that I don't know if he had them attached to the inside of the ring somehow, or if they were just loose. It almost appeared that they were attached to the inside ring somehow, but I didn't get a chance to examine it that close.
Yeah, you can buy them that way, or just cut them yourself and make
Okay.
them, and kind of take something and push them down in there. It'll kind of like snap into like a little groove area type a lot of
Yeah.
times.
Yep. Okay. Yeah, I'm not familiar with that, but that sounds right.
So he poured the fluid through that. You might see some mites in that honey. That's about a 400 micron strainer there, I think, is what they go for. Three or 400. And then you say you didn't see anything, and then you went and he
then poured that fluid back in on top of the bees, and then that's when he put the 1/8 inch hardware cloth lid on it, and then he did the swirl method with that next. And then we poured them through the 1/8 inch hardware cloth into the second mason jar to do kind of like your normal check, to look from the top, look from the sides, look from the bottom after he swirled it, trying to get a mite count. And on these, the first round of bees we did, he didn't get any. And then when he did like the salt and pepper shaker method on the paper towel. At the second round, at the second yard, that's where he shook like 11 mites out off of them. And they were obvious. I mean, they were very obvious. You know, they landed on that white paper towel, and that was perfect. They stood out.
Right. I knew that a guy showed me, he lives in Pennsylvania area, and when I first started out, he would take a tub like that, pour water in that tub, and then shake that, like you say, put a screen on there like that. That was back in the sugar shake days, and he kept shaking the sugar out. And of course, the mites would come out, and the sugar would melt in the water, but the mites would float in the water.
Oh, okay.
And that was one of the easier ways.
Yeah, I've never done any sugar shake method. You know what I mean? So I didn't realize that there was some comparison between them. But
Mm-hmm. All right, let's take and get rid of that.
I just wanted to bring it back and share it with the group. Like I say, I'm kind of excited knowing how to make this alcohol wash work maybe better, I guess.
Yeah, I don't know. There we go. Yeah, he had a different way of doing it. So I think that's pretty cool.
Yep.
And all that. And it actually had a little bit more thorough result for you.
Yeah. Yeah. If we'd have stopped it just the way I was doing it normally, I'd have thought that I had maybe one mite in that yard, not 12. And I would have just, I expect I would have lost that colony. And who knows how many other colonies in that yard.
Well, I would see, that's the thing. I don't stop. I go through the winter time, starting like last year. I started in November. It was a Saturday. I put the chloroplast board in. I did all them hives behind me there, along with my nukes, with OA vapor. I came back the next day, which was Sunday morning or afternoon, and I went and looked at the chloroplast boards on every one of them hives. Now, they had some mites on there, and like I've told before, you have so many mites on there where they just pop out at you, and you don't even have to look for them. They just, are there. And then you have the board, when you pull it out of the chloroplast board, we're like, okay, we got to hunt for the mites. That's not so bad for those hives. But I had 5 of those hives there that more or less the mites just popped out at me. And because that's how many they were on the chloroplast board after that first treatment. So, for me, I got 26 hives now, and they're all different. You can't, So I went that day, and those 5 hives got another treatment of OA. So they got 2 treatments of OA a day apart. The rest of them, I kept them on the schedule of every 2 weeks, twice a month. And by Christmas time, right before Christmas, I was pretty much zeros on the mite drops. And I used the chloroplast board because I'm not going to, number one, I'm not doing sugar or shakes in the middle of the winter, and I will open my hives up after I get done feeding. They pretty much got them sealed up for the winter, and I leave them sealed up for the winter and all that. So
Todd put something in the chat here referring to the interaction between the thymol and the OA. So, yeah, I mean, whatever I have to give that time-wise, I was going to give that. Or he mentioned it, maybe try wait a couple weeks, take a mite count, and then hit it with 25 grams of Apogard 7 days apart. Hit them with basically hitting them with Apogard again.
Yeah, here it is right here.
I could go around and hit them. I could probably go around and hit them with 50 grams of Apogard since it's cooled off now. I got to finish treating the bees. I'm going to come visit Bill tomorrow and get some more Apogard, but I need to finish treating my bees down here, and then I'll have Apogard left over. I could go up and put another 50 grams on that whole on those 28 colonies or whatever's up there. So that's
you've
another.
only did. I presume those hives that you checked, you've only did half of a dose.
My Maryland colonies, my new to me colonies, they've only had a 50 gram application. And I started putting another 50 grams on today, and I ran out of Apogard. But I could go up. The other colonies had a 30, 35, 35, which wrapped up about 10 days ago. I'm going to have Apogard left over. I could go up there and put another 50 grams on that whole, on that whole apiary up there, on that whole yard. Maybe that would be the smarter thing to do, since I'm kind of I would have to wait for the thymol to burn off, before I do the oxalic acid vaporization. So options, so many options, right? I guess I automatically default to vaporize an OA because I had a similar thing happen last year, and I did that every 4 days for 7 rounds, and I know it killed bees, or not bees, mites. I know it cleaned them up.
Yeah. Now David here, he's relatively new. He's got 10 hives, had 0 to 1 mites after OAV treatment, had 3 to 4, and the last is bad. How long does it take for AOV to kick in? It kicks in immediately.
Yeah, it's an immediate response.
That's an immediate response.
The hard part to understand about that is OAV vaporizing at this time of year is only going to kill the bees or the mites that are on the bees. It's not going to touch anything that's under the cappings. That's why I was looking at hitting them that's why previously I hit them every 4 days, thinking that she'd lay an egg, and then before it gets capped, it's getting hit with OA.
I've tried that. I had that same theory years ago, and for some reason, it just doesn't seem to work.
Okay. It worked for me on last year on the application, but that doesn't mean it'll work this year. But that's kind of my go-to.
Well, David here, David, the fact of the matter is there's brood in the hive. So 80% of the science says 80% of your mites are underneath the cappings. So you have maybe 20% effective rate right now. What you need to do is wait till about November, when the hive is about 90 to 95% broodless, being in Southern Maryland, and then start doing your OAV treatments, and try to do them when I find about 45 degrees. That way the cluster is loose and you can penetrate the cluster and get your thoracic mites, which are on your bees, and then also your most of your brood is going to be uncapped by then. She's already started slowing down.
Yeah, and I intend on hitting them twice with oxalic acid vapor in December and January again. You know what I mean? As long as I can get those 45-degree days like you're saying. But I want to do something more aggressive now.
Well,
I really wanted to have, my mites under control and have 3 brood cycles before they started raising their winter bees. But it's slipping away from me with things right now.
Well, you got some time.
Yep. I'm gonna get on.
There's going to be brood in the hive September. There's going to be brood in the hive throughout October, as long as we don't get, we don't normally get a real severe cold weather at that time. It's getting chilly at night, but and then Mark says there's not enough said about brood breaks and how effective it is. And really, I mean, if you do Formic Pro, that is another bit of a brood break. They will slow down on that.
And
And
you got to figure the mid-Atlantic states go through a brood break July and August because of the dearth.
And then also on top of that is your AprilGuard. I noticed that for that being my first time using it at the end of the treatment program that I had. I could see that they weren't laying. All right, Phil wants to know, how many times did you treat with OAV on a 4-day cycle did it work? What I did was I treated every 3 days. I treated it all, usually on a Wednesday and a Saturday. Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday. Yeah, that's what it was, a Saturday. So it was between a 3 and a 4. It was twice a week, between a 3 and a 4 day days in between things. And I did that for anywhere from, originally it was 6 weeks I started like in late September back in the day, and I went all the way through October till Halloween. And I believe that's about the time changes. So it got to the point where when the time changes and the nights were getting closer and closer, you had to start. As I got closer to the time change, that's when I had to try to get out there at 4 o'clock in the afternoon, because it would be dark by 6. And I worked myself to death on that. And it just,
yeah, that's a commitment when you're doing that.
I worked the snot out. It worked the snot out of me. And I would go through, on average, I'd go through 5 pounds of OA a year.
Yep.
Easy. And because of so much frequency. And then I had a whole bunch of my nukes die on me that year, one of those years. And I sat down and I was reading ABJ, and I was watching what Randy Oliver was posting and looking at his charts. And there was the one issue here about 3 or 4 years ago where he said, we did it this way, and this way. And then he had charted the mite loads at the time. And I said, I was watching his charts, and I'm like, okay, well, this chart here is showing that was a more constant low mite load throughout by him doing it frequently. So, but it just didn't prove out, and I was looking, I'm like, it's like Aprivar at that time. Everybody said, oh, it's Aprivar. I said, look, Aprivar is a contact product where the bees don't go across it. They don't get the Aprivar, at the time to kill the mites. And I'm like, if I'm getting the mites as they're coming out of the cappings, I'm great. Well, that was my theory, and it didn't work. So that's when I started looking into Formic Pro, because they did have Mite Away quick strips at the time, but Formic Pro was coming out. And I learned basically like I did with AprilGuard this year. I did my homework and understood exactly what I had to do to prep that hive and put that stuff on there. And then I come up with my theory on the temperatures. The high range is 85 degrees for Formic Pro, but I tell people I found that no higher than 80 degrees, and 80 degrees and less, and low humidity. And I found that September was the best month for me. That's when the heat waves, and usually in July and August is when we have our hottest months. This year is exceptionally cool. And usually right around Labor Day, either Labor Day weekend or now it's after Labor Day, we're going to have these cool spells, and I'm jumping on it with the Formic Pro. So
I was going to say that's another option for me, whether I throw AprilGuard on again, or I could hit that whole yard with Formic.
Well, I mean, have you did the second dose with AprilGuard, or you not?
Yeah, up in the yard where I found the mites, or where he found the mites, they've had the 3 rounds of AprilGuard, and that's been done for about 10 days now.
I'd throw Formic Pro in there.
Formic's,
I mean, you got 5-day window coming up Sunday. I'd lay those 2 strips on above that and hit them that way. And then after that is when as like I say, around late October, I'll be hitting them with OA vapor.
Yeah, that's a viable option. I could go. Does anybody know anything about how long to wait? How long I should wait?
I don't think you have to wait at all. I don't think. Are you saying from OAV to doing the?
Well, I'm saying from doing the ApiGuard. I'm saying from doing the ApiGuard, and maybe I throw 2 strips of Formic on. It's been about 10 days since the last treatment.
Yeah, I mean, I think what you're all getting on is the fact that Mike or Bob Benny talked about doing ApiGuard or Thymol and the reaction with oxalic acid.
Yeah, but he was saying at the same time, I think, right?
No, he was talking about if you did oxalic acid in the first and then the ApiGuard. It was also
he was talking about having the glycerin strips in and dropping ApiGuard in.
Yeah.
Okay, maybe that's what it was. But he also fact that the thymol lingers in the hive.
Yeah,
I could see that. I could see if the thymol was in there and you came with an OAV, I could see where it would mix together. But vice versa, the OAV doesn't persist very long at all. Like I wouldn't even say it let persist for a day, maybe 2 days at the most.
Hey, Will, to answer your question, the waiting period, if you treat it with ApiGuard first to Formic Pro, you're recommended to wait 30 days.
Oh, 30 days. Okay.
Yeah.
So, hey, Charlie, I just want to jump in here and talk about my experience. I've got to get ready for market. But when you're talking about the only thing I've ever used is OAV until the end of last year. I did some Appy tablets on some that had some big drops, and it caused even more big drops. And this year, I've gone back on almost all of mine, not mine here in Capel, but my hives I can't get to every 4 days. I've hit them with OAV several times, but it's only like every 2 to 3 to 4 weeks whenever I'm out. But I went ahead and put the extended release on all those. But for the last 2, not this year, but last year and the year before, on my hives here in Capel that I can get to any day I want to, I go with an OAV treatment every 4 to 5 days, and I check mite drops after 24 hours, and I do them at least 3 times, most of the time, all of them 5 times. But I check, and what I found is if I have 10 hives after 3 treatments, 4 to 5 days apart, half of those, so 5 out of 10 of those, will still be dropping more, double-digit mites. Some of them a lot more. Some of them in the hundreds.
Mm-hmm.
And then after each treatment, after that fourth or fifth or third treatment, third or fourth, it seems like half the hives, half again, so 2.5, 2 to 3 will have single digits, and then do it again. There'll only be one that's over, it has double digits or more, and then after that, so that that comes out to about 5, 6, or maybe even 7 treatments, and it's usually taken care of. Now, I did have one time that after the first treatment, it dropped like 1,000 mites, and it took me 10 treatments to get that one down to single digits. But that's my experience, is that you can control them if you stay after them every 4 to 5 days. And
that's a problem. He's got 175 hives.
Oh gosh, yeah.
You can't be doing all. It's just too much work.
I agree with you.
And
I did that when I had 40, and I'll tell you what, I was hustling hard.
Well, back when I did all that, where I was doing it twice a week, I was up, like you say, about 35 hives.
Yeah.
And it's just about where you were. I mean, even though I had a Pro VAP and everything else, and I had the most, fastest possible, it's a lot of work. It's a lot of time.
That's why I'm weighing. I know I'm going to have ApiGuard left after I finish everybody this year. And I'm just kind of wondering, maybe my 30, 35, 35, who knows what they were before that, right? But maybe that 30, 35, 35, what would it hurt if I dropped a 50 on them? Then I'm not waiting a period of time. I'm not waiting a month to put formic on. I'm not waiting an unknown time to let the thymol get out before I OAV them. Phil, I agree with you. I've done that every four. I mean, I did that every 4 days times 7. I might have locked up, but I did that every 4 days times 7 rounds, and I know it killed them. It's just the logistics of that, like Charlie's kind of alluding to.
No, I agree with that. Once you get above a that's just, I was just wanting to share my experience in case somebody's out there thinking they can't get their, with 5 hives, they can't get them under control with OAV. I think they can, as long as they're consistent and stay after them. But anyway, I'm going to get off of here and keep getting ready for the market. Just didn't feel like I could text all that in chat.
That's good. That's glad you're coming on.
All right. I'm going to keep listening to you guys. We'll see y'all later.
See you now.
All right. OAV persists in a hive for up to 2 days after it's the vapor is put into the hive. The vapor then turns to a crystal, and the bees remove it within 2 days' time.
What are you seeing on thymol and how long it lingers? Are you seeing anything on that, Bill?
Hang on.
My question is this, and I've asked this once before. If you take Aprigard and you drop 50 grams in, you're supposed to wait for 2 weeks, and you do another 50. So what's the difference when you do let's say you do it in 3 consecutive weeks, the same thing. So now you've got a thymol product off-gassing for 3, by the time that week is over with, you dropped another 35 grams on again. And it's a constant vapor coming in. They're constantly taking it out, however they track it out or take it out by mouth to get it out of the hive. So is that more kill productive that way, or is it that big flash of 50 grams? Is that more of a kill? I like to have get
their feedback on that. Yeah.
Get the feedback on that.
It persists for 30 days because it's trapped throughout the hive.
So my best bet might be to drop another 50 grams of Apigard on them if I want to treat immediately, right?
Yep.
Is that what you guys are saying?
That's what I'm reading here.
That's kind of a stinker.
Overview of
now for me, it's been the hives I treat with Formic Pro now, it'll be 4 weeks. So it's been 30 days.
Yeah.
So my concern was if you, like you said, 10 days, and then you hit them with another acid-based product, are you being really harsh on the bees by, because Formic Pro is pretty harsh.
Yeah.
Yep.
I'm like, I wanted to give them 4 weeks to give them a break to kind of recoup and all that, and then hit them again with something different. So maybe I'm just
with it being, it sounds like effectively with the research that Bill's got there, no matter unless I put Apigard back on them, whether I'm doing OA or whether I'm dropping Formic pads on, it sounds like I got to wait 30 days to do those.
Here's something we think about. Here's Mark's. Longer you use Apigard, the longer the brood break. Keep that in mind. That means she ain't going to lay anything. But
that's another stinker too.
Yep.
They got a brood break, but on the other hand, with that brood break,
that helps kill mites.
That's going to be an open mite. Mites are open to the thymol and whatever.
Yep.
And all that. So.
But other side of thymol is this. You got to remember, thymol is a volatile substance. The higher the temperatures increase, higher temperatures increase the evaporation rate, leading to shorter persistence times in the hive. That's why thymol treatments are best suited for warm weather. So the higher the temperature that you use it at, the less persistent it is in the hive. That's why they say 25, 25, 25, 25, or like Charlie did 35, 35, 30. They want you to break it up, because if you put 50 in on a hot day with high humidity, it's going to flash and you're going to get bee kill.
Well, so tomorrow's 79 here. Sunday 72, Monday 72, Tuesday 74, Wednesday 76, Thursday 78. So I'm staying under 80 degrees. But it's not. It's still 70 degrees. Is that kind of goofy to say that?
Yeah, but that's what they say. 77 degrees is for 50 grams.
Yeah.
That's why I dropped
Under
that.
77.
That's why I dropped that last third dose was 45 grams, because I had 5 days worth of beautiful weather.
Yep.
Yeah, I think temperature wise, I'm leaning towards dropping 50 grams on that whole, 50 grams of Apogard on that whole group again.
Well, you already got it in there, Apogard in there. You can do that.
Yeah, the Apogard's already, the thymol's already there.
Tiny Creek, you got to remember one thing. July and August is the brood break. She may not have quit laying. Those bees may have started eating eggs and young larvae for protein source, because there's no protein coming in the hive other than that.
Matt, he noticed that 30 shut down almost all the queens. Yeah, it's going to shut them down. That's for sure. Apogard
it will shut them down if you don't put it in there according to the directions.
Well, it shuts them down. Don't matter which way you go. I mean, that's just what happens. You can put it down there with the low temperatures at 50 grams or whatever. It's still going to shut them down. But I don't have a problem with that.
Well, that kind of helps my problem. But I will say this, that when the inspector was there and we went through that yard where we found all the mites in that one colony, there was significant amounts of brood in there. You know what I mean? There might have been a little brood break, but there was a bunch of emerging brood, the real dark cappings on it. And there was certainly the medium cappings. So I don't know.
There you go. 80% is underneath the capping. So 80% of your mites were starting to come out.
Yep.
But does thymol touch them underneath there or not?
No, it does not.
It does not.
I think I'd put the darn formic on myself. I think because it's going to be in the mid 70s.
Yeah, it's not going to be terrible hot.
It's going to be you're in the sweet spot when it comes to formic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's just, do you wait the 30 days? I'm 10 days in right now.
I don't know what I'd wait. I just go ahead and do it.
That's 28 colonies to smoke, bro. You know what I mean?
Well, why don't you do this? Why don't you do a bee experiment? Why don't you drop the formic on that one hive that it's been ate up with mites?
Yep.
See what they do.
And see what happens with that one. See if they don't survive, and then do all the Apogard on the rest of them. Was the rest of them pretty good? Did you do some more spot checks?
We only had time. He was running out of time at that point, and we only did that colony for the mite treatments. So I need to go up. I need to do a bunch of testing is part of what I need to do.
See, this is what they haven't had any science back this up, but I think it does help. Eliminates the viruses in the wax.
Well, I think the process that you're talking about with doing Apogard like you did, Charlie, and now you're going to hit them next with Formic Pro. I mean, I think that's just over the top. And then hitting them with OAV in December and January. I mean, that's a very aggressive, mite going after
All right,
the
but
mites.
look at my results. All right,
All
I did Apricard, which
Yep.
last year I did Aprivar, okay, which didn't work.
Yep.
I was tested, did not work. And then I backed it up because I had I had mites all in my drone brood and everything else. So I hit him with Formic. And then here I am hitting him with OA in November, and I'm finding 5 mite bombs in my row the next day.
Mm-hmm.
And then I get to the point where I'm down to almost Christmas time, right before Christmas. And I did my last, at 24, I go back out in 24 hours the next day and pull them boards out and check them. And now I'm down to, I have to hunt for the mites on them boards.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm down to the point where maybe I don't find any on there, or I might find, let's say, 5 mites on the board, which is nothing. And I got my bees through. And am I over treating? I don't think I am. I think people are missing the point that I think I won't say I'm putting the point out there, but what I'm finding is that Bill sits there and treats in the springtime, and he gets probably a pretty good kill. So that tells me something, that yeah, you treat it and you got down here in October, and then you don't treat from that point on until springtime, let's say February or let's say March. And the mite load's starting to creep back up because the brood is starting to creep back up come February. She's starting to lay again. She's starting to get ready for spring. Yep. And then here comes the mite load, and it keeps populating up and populating up. So he likes to do a spring treatment with Formic or whatever and hit them then. What I'm doing is I'm hitting them twice a month, as long as the weather conditions are right, through the winter time. Doesn't take much to do that, for me. And I'm maintaining that low mite load all the way through till spring. Do I hit them in the spring with anything? No, I go up to, well, this year I went up probably close to 1st of April because it was cold as ice. Normally by mid-March or early March, I'm done. That's usually by early March, things are getting warm and I'm done treating for the season. And then let's say April, May, and June, I don't treat at all, because Honey Super's on. I just don't treat when I have food product on. And when I get my Honey Supers off and put them back into my winter mode, that's when I start doing my treatments again. And I try to do my treatments starting late July. Here comes somebody that we haven't seen in a long time. And how's Scott doing? Are we still in the bee business?
Yes, Scott was in a car accident in June.
Oh,
and
are you okay?
Scott is just now getting to the point where I'm okay.
Wow.
So my bee yard is an absolute
mess.
Yeah, to put it mildly. So, yeah, it's not a great year for me.
Well, the main thing, we ain't worried about the bee yard. We're worried about you. How bad, or if you want to tell, or did you have a hospitalization situation or what?
Well, I was in the hospital, and I have a lawyer, so I can't talk about it too much. But
how seriously bad were you? Broken bones and stuff like that?
My lower back, I messed up a couple of discs.
Oh,
that's horrible.
So
yeah,
there goes your beekeeping world.
Yep.
Well, and Will, if you remember when I reached out to you about the lifter,
yes, yeah,
that's why.
Oh, okay.
That's
I didn't
why.
realize that.
Moving forward, if I'm going to do any kind of meaningful beekeeping, I'm going to need a hive lifter because my back won't allow me for the foreseeable future to do too much. So I've been doing a little bit of management, been creative. So if I have to move a box, I have to break the box down by frame. and put it in, like I have a Pro Nuke there and stuff. So like I've been like, I have to break it down into smaller, lighter increments, for lack of a better way of putting it, and then move that stuff around and then do what I need to do. And I have to actually get down on my knees and stand on my knees to get in the bottom box, because stooping over or bending over for long periods or, excessively was causing me problems, stuff like that. So I've been trying to be creative, but the bees have definitely suffered. I lost 4 colonies. And I would say my original colonies, my original back row, the ones I got through winter last year, they are still doing fantastic. I'd say those are probably the best colonies I have. The packages, I bought 4 packages at the beginning of this year, or the season, and those packages were all garbage. I probably 3 of the 4 packages requeened themselves 3 times, and then finally they just gave up, and they just went to nothing. And the rest of the colony, I had 19 colonies. I have 14 colonies now, and I actually had to do a combine. I had 2 colonies and they were doing fine. They just, for whatever reason, would not build up. They were just kind of maintaining, but they had really good brood patterns, literally wall to, side to side. I mean, the frames that they had brood on were really good laying patterns. Just for whatever reason, they would not get going. And I was feeding them since the beginning of July. So they just would not kind of build up. So I ended up combining them. I could not find the queen in one of the boxes, so I just threw it on top and it became Battle Royale, whichever one of those queens makes it. I mean, I looked and looked and looked. I mean, there were eggs and all kinds of stages of larvae and stuff like that. I know she was in there. I just couldn't find her. So finally I just said, okay, you know what? I'm putting it on and they can duke it out. So, so it's really been just recently in the last couple of weeks, I've been able to really do anything meaningful. So I've been trying to play catch up. So I did manage to get Apiguard I had 6 production colonies that made honey for me this year. Not a lot, but a little bit. And the rest of them were just splits that just were not building up because I wasn't there to manage them. And so I put Apiguard on them, and I did 25 grams to start with. And then there was a little bit of a cool down for 5 or 6 weeks towards sometime in July. I can't remember specifically when. So I said, you know what? Screw it. I just threw 50 on and they were fine. They were absolutely fine. There was no bearding. There was no nothing. And they weathered that 50 just fine. And then I finished them off with 25 and they were fine. And then when we finally pulled the honey supers off of my 6 production colonies, I had family members down there who were very apprehensive, but they were helping me do it. They were doing like the weight, the lifting and stuff. So I got all those off. And then, well, I can't remember the specific day that I did it, but on those colonies, the actual 14 days will be the 9th. So it'll be on Tuesday. So on Tuesday, Formic Pro will have been on them for 14 days. So because the temperatures have been insanely cool. So they were just, especially nighttime temperatures.
You did a great, you hit it just right for temperature wise.
Yeah. So, and
something you might think about is, I know one gal in my club here, she had back operation too. And she went with the horizontal beehives because she can't lift. Which it's okay, I guess. I mean, if it's not as, I don't know. I'm used to.
I think I'd rather drop $1,700 on a B3 and, you know, try to go at it that way. My only concern is either hauling it around, or if I leave it at the yard, I have no way of charging it. So I know it has a solar panel on it, but I don't know how efficient and how fast the solar panel is in charging it. And if I haven't used it for a little while and it's kind of dead.
I'm on my second year. I've never charged it.
I've never charged mine.
But I mean, are you just leaving them sit out?
Yep.
No.
I'll just leave mine. I'm leaving mine set out.
The thing of it is the difference between like a B1 and a B3. A B1, you have to use the pulley system. You have to use the electricity to be able to get it to come up.
Right.
Well, this one here, once you set the height of that top bar where your handles are that grabs the handles,
right,
then you teeter-totter on the wheels on the front by raising your handles up.
right.
And you can kind of raise up and you can go up to the box and your handles will flop out and you can slide down to the handholds.
Yeah.
And they'll flop in. And then, of course, you've got your box already broken from the propose with your hive tool.
Mm-hmm.
And then you just push down as a seesaw and you raise that box straight up.
Right.
And you just pull it back and you're done.
Yeah. I've been watching Mike Berry and Brad Cajun Homestead. They both have those, and I've been watching them.
I got one too, Scott.
I know, but you're not really doing a lot of videos where you're using it, right? So
I had some in the past.
Yeah. So I've been literally like watching their videos where they're using it, and I keep like stopping it and reversing it a little bit and watching and like studying it and stuff like that. Just because I want to, I may have to move things around a little bit in my apiary because of how close I have my rows. I may not have enough clearance to kind of, because
I can tell you what you need. You need at least 10 feet.
Right. That B3 is kind of wide.
It's
right?
long.
Yeah.
It's long. You need it between 12 feet is very comfortable. 10 feet is comfortable.
Right.
And all that.
But then I figure I could use the hive lifter to move the hives around, so it might not be a big of a deal. But yeah, so that's unfortunate that that happened. But and I mean it could be worse. I mean all my bees could be dead, gone, but they're not. So, but they
Scott,
I definitely didn't. Yeah,
I have a thought.
Yeah,
I am not going to use my hive lifter until next year.
Mm-hmm.
Now, there is the one tire does leak air a little bit. I'll tell you that, but it's just setting right now. If you want to come use it, I'll let you use it till next spring if you want to.
Yeah, I
that way you could figure out if you like it or not if you want to buy one. But I'm literally not going to use it, probably for the next however many months.
Okay. I appreciate that offer. And
yeah,
actually what I was going to do was I was going to ask you or ask Charlie or ask both of you or whatever, if you guys thought maybe it would be okay for me to like maybe stop by and just kind of get actual eyes on it or whatever.
Stop by.
Just, so that I can,
Or
I
you can
kind of feel how
away.
heavy. I mean, when I watch these guys use it, I mean, it seems like it's pretty light. I guess it's made out of aluminum.
Yep.
Yeah, it is.
And I did some emailing with the guy. Is his name Boris or something?
Boris.
Yeah. So I did some emailing with him and stuff like that. So I've been doing some research about it or whatever, but I'm trying not to get too ahead of myself at this point because, like I said, it's just been kind of like maybe in the last 2 to 3 weeks that I'm really to the point where I am starting to be able to, like, I can sit here right now in this chair. And I'm not in agony, right? But like up to about 2 or 3 weeks ago, I literally couldn't sit more than 5 minutes at a time. I couldn't stand for maybe more than 30 minutes. So I've been rough. I've been in rough shape. So I've really just, at this point have been trying to decide and assess like, what am I going to do moving forward?
Just come in, swing in and pick it up. You know what I mean? You're welcome. Yeah. You're welcome to it.
I appreciate that. And I know you had mentioned about how you were hauling yours around on a trailer, right? Because I mean, I had asked you like, like I was trying to figure out, like, will I need a trailer for it, or would
You have
I
a
be
pickup
able to
truck?
get it up into the back of my truck bed? I don't know. So
Get yourself in your situation. Get yourself some aluminum ramps from Harbor Freight.
okay.
Something
You
like
can roll it right into your pickup then.
Yeah. All right. Yeah. So I've been just at this point, just trying to assess and trying to kind of play catch up. And I've
now.
been
From
looking
what I
at everything.
remember, you got a fence, and then you got room, and then you got beehives, right?
Yeah. So there's a fence this way and then a fence this way. So,
I know that.
so the
What I'm
back
talking
row,
about-
I would have to come at from the
From
front,
the front.
but the center and front row, I could probably come at either front or back because there's more space.
You need 10 feet. I'll
Yeah.
tell you that right
Yeah,
now.
there's probably enough in that, or if it's not, they wouldn't have to be moved very far. Maybe just slightly forward, which would probably be good for the bees, so that they would find their entrances pretty quickly or easily. But
Well, what do you have to do now in your bee yard, lifting wise, or manipulating or anything like that?
not too much, because like I said, I've been spending all day there. Because it takes me like probably 3 times longer to do anything, right? So I've been literally just like spending all day there and moving, like I said, moving things around, like 2-3 frames at a time and stuff like that, getting it all done. So mite treatments are done. Now, obviously, I'll be following up with, because like what I did last year was I did Formic, and then through the end of September, October, and early November, I just went and blasted them with OAV. So just to
You're kind of done lifting right now, then.
Yeah, so I'm done lifting at the moment. There's not really, I said honey supers are off, and as far as the shape that everybody is in, I think everybody is good. The only thing I'm going to have to start doing is feeding, obviously, here in the next couple of weeks. I've been thinking about probably starting feeding either end of next week or definitely the beginning of the following. But everybody is, I think, in fairly decent, like nobody's starving, right? Like everybody's got, like some food and stuff like that too. So like I said, it could have been way worse, especially with as long as they were neglected. But
So my bees, and I think we run bees in the same area. My bees were starving a month ago.
Really?
Okay. But I got into them here with this inspection today, and there was fresh white wax, and there was a lot of nectar in them. So hopefully you're getting the same thing I'm getting. We're all York County. We're running bees in York County.
Right.
And hopefully they're bringing some nectar in. They found something. I did see when I was just kind of looking at them before we got into them today, there was an orange colored pollen that they had packed on their legs, and then there was a bright yellow.
Yeah.
So that in combination, and that was about every 4th or 5th bee I saw going in on average. But I was pleasantly surprised to see the amount of nectar that they were bringing in.
Yeah, I mean,
for what it's worth.
Right. I think obviously with our crazy cold, May and rainy May and stuff like that or whatever. And I think after that, my bees just got on the clover and whatever other wildflowers were going. And I think, it kept them going. Now, like I said, a couple of the colonies a couple of splits that I was trying to get built up, I just kept putting, maybe just a slightly lighter than 1-to-1 syrup on them since about middle of July.
That's what I've been pushing.
Yeah, just to try to get them to draw some comb and build up, but they just wouldn't. Like no matter what, I was like, they just kept eating it, and that was it. They weren't doing anything else with it. So
yeah, my bees almost seemed like the month of June they just stayed neutral. They didn't increase. They didn't go down, but they didn't get any better either.
Yeah.
And then when I was in them 10 days ago, even my good colonies were mean as shit. I mean, terrible. And but getting in them today, like I say, we got into 2 yards, and they were different bees. You know what I mean? They were bringing in food. They seemed like they were, they were significantly. I originally put a full bee suit on today for doing my inspections, and I duct tape, the bottom of my suit to my boots.
Yeah.
I mean, like that's the level that they've been lately.
Right.
Now I got into about the 5th hive today, and I peeled off my gloves and I was barehanding it. So I mean, it's a dramatic difference now that they've got some food. Now that they've got some nectar. So
now I've been wearing my full bee suit just because of the amount of time that I'm spending in the colonies because of how slow I'm going. It tends to make them a little grumpier. So I've been wearing my full bee suit just so that I can, feel a little bit more comfortable spending that much time and being that kind of, slowly intrusive into them. So otherwise I would probably just wear a jacket and boots, but and of course in the full, I have a Guardian full bee suit, ventilated. So I've never taken a sting through that thing. I mean, that thing is kind of been, knock on wood, it's been impenetrable in the time that I've had it. But yeah, so like I said, so as time goes on, I am getting better, and hopefully, then once, we're going into fall, so there won't be a whole lot left to do. And, as far as like physical work, and then I'm hoping, to obviously that I feel, way better coming out of winter and into spring. But, it did kind of screw up a little bit of my plans and stuff too, but we'll see how I feel, like I said, coming into spring and whatever. But I really, at this point, talking with my doctors and stuff like that, I really feel like a hive lifter will, it'll just give me a little bit more safety and a little bit more peace of mind, knowing that I'm not going to possibly cause a re-injury or aggravate the injury.
I would say right now, and you're just starting to get better, I'd be very cautious.
Yeah, I am trying to be
of lifting up anything.
Yeah,
yep.
like I said,
God, I just put my cell number in the private chat. You can take it down, and if you want to get a hold of me, and we'll coordinate getting you that thing.
Appreciate it. So,
like I say, it's just going to sit.
Yeah.
The only thing is, I know one tire needs a little air once in a while.
Gotcha.
And I haven't gotten around to replacing it or doing anything, about it. But.
But yeah, so that's basically me. I mean, like my bee yard's a mess, but so the last crisis I had down there was discovering that my Amish made bottom boards were splitting apart and separating and causing this big kind of gap in between on the bottom board, and the bees were propolizing it. And I sent Bill a message asking him if he was having any problems with him, because he got a lot of his equipment from the same supplier, and I don't think had any problems with it or whatever. And then that became the least of my problems of having to deal with that, because, it was like not long after that when I got into the accident. So it's kind of like, if that whole thing opened up like the Dead Sea, it wouldn't have been anything I could have done about it. But I mean, I'm going to have to replace all my bottom boards at some point as well, too, because they were made with 2 boards for the bottom piece. And for whatever reason, I put like 3 coats of paint on them and a clear coat. And for whatever reason, they got wet or it wasn't enough, or something happened. But literally like 5 or 6 of my bottom boards from this Amish supplier all separated where the 2 boards meet, which is like right in the middle of the bottom board, right?
Well,
So
I'm going to say this, Scott. It doesn't matter who you get bottom boards from.
yeah.
If you get solid bottom boards, they're all going to be multiple pieces on the bottom.
Well, I actually I have some that is literally all one piece, but I agree with you. When I was investigating it at that time, most of them are two pieces, but there were a couple that I found that was literally one piece.
Yeah.
Like one piece of plywood that had been cut and slid.
Yeah, plywood. Yeah.
Yeah, it's plywood, right? Absolutely, right.
But I mean, if you're doing actually solid woods, the reason they do it out of multiple pieces is because of warpage and stuff like that.
Yep.
No
and
doubt.
so it can expand and contract.
Yeah, absolutely. But it expanded to the point where it opened up and the bees filled it all in with propolis. But then the opening got so big that they couldn't do it. So yeah, it was a problem. But
Did you take it back to him?
I went and I talked with them about it. And I explained it to him and I showed him pictures of it and everything else. And his entire position was, wow, yeah, never saw anything like that before. And that was it. So I was like, okay, it's fine. No problem. It's certainly not the first piece of bee equipment that I bought that I had to replace shortly after buying because it was garbage. But, you know, I mean, it is what it is. So, you know, I guess I just chalked it up to the point where at least I didn't pay top dollar for it, you know, but there was nothing else I could do about it. So I had other screened bottom boards that I didn't want to use anymore. And we just went ahead and swapped them out. So, but then right after that, I was in the accident. So, you know, after that, it just was kind of like, you know, the least of my worries at this point. So, but anyway, so that's really it for me. So that's just, you know, that's kind of like why I've been like, you know, out of touch and not been around or whatever. But I have been from time to, like for here and there, I was catching your replays and stuff like that of you guys, of both Charlie and Bill's lives and stuff like that.
Mhm.
Was watching the replays and stuff like the next day or whatever, or when I had a moment or whatever. So I was keeping up on everything that was happening. But yeah, I just haven't really been able, like I said, until recently, really to be able to sit. It was kind of like crazy. Like I would like sit for 5 minutes and stand for a couple minutes. And then I was like laying down and this and that and all kinds of stuff, you know, it was driving everybody crazy, you know, because I wasn't sitting still, but I just couldn't, you know, like I was sitting on my knees and everything, anything to try to find 5 minutes of relief from this pain in my back. I mean, I just could not deal with it, could not stand it. It was absolutely driving me crazy, you know, and, you know, I mean, I guess I had some age-related narrowing of the spinal areas and stuff like that anyway. So the accident just kind of exasperated that and stuff. So, and it just kind of made the injuries worse. But, you know, there's nothing I could do about that, obviously. But so anyway, so that's it. So that's, you know, so I've been trying to play catch up with the bees and stuff like that. But like I said, at this point, I think all the heavy lifting is done for the year. You know, so, and I was thankfully able to get through that and, you know, just some of the manipulation and stuff. I did some consolidation. It seemed like I had some drone frames in both boxes and stuff like that. So like I said, I just kind of moved them all into the bottom and, all the drone frames, and they kind of had some brood upstairs and downstairs and stuff. So I just all kind of consolidated it all in, you know, and just, you know, moved things around or whatever. And I got 2 colonies, like I said, combined, using, you know, newspaper. So, but, you know, hopefully I know one queen was marked and one queen wasn't. So when I go back and check on that or whatever, I'll know which one won. So, so that'll be the way I'll figure that one out. But otherwise, so yeah, I mean, that's kind of the pitfalls. I was like, you know what, this could not have happened at a worse time for beekeeping from a beekeeping standpoint. But like I said, it could have been worse. You know, I mean, I could have lost my entire yard, but I didn't. So, and I was even able to work on my business. It took me, I had applied for a limited food establishment license from the Pennsylvania Department of Agriculture in March. and never heard anything from them. And I kept calling them and emailing them and leaving them messages and sending them emails, and they were completely ignoring me, not returning any of my phone calls, not answering any of my emails. So finally, my wife was just like, you know what? Just submit the application all over again. So I did. And then as soon as I did, within 2 weeks, they contacted me and said, we need to come out and inspect. And then they came out and inspected. And and now I haven't gotten the license yet, but I did pass the inspection, and I do have my license number and stuff like that or whatever. I just haven't actually gotten the physical license and stuff yet. So, but it was obviously too late for me to take advantage of too much of it at this point, but I wouldn't have been able to do it anyway because of the accident. So I think that all worked out well too. So hopefully I'll be doing some markets next year. Or whatever, but at this point, but this refrigerator back here, I'm experimenting with creamed honey. So I have about 7 or 8 jars of creamed honey in there setting up. So we'll see how that all turns out. I've never done it before, never made it. So this is like my first batch back here. So
All right. Well, I'm glad that at least you're getting better.
yeah. Like it's going to be a slow road. Anytime you have that kind of injury in your back, it's never heals, never gets better quick. So.
Yep. Well, I'm glad that, like I say, hopefully, I think you really need to have to really what would you say? Watch your back right now.
Yeah, I am. Like I said, I'm trying to be as careful as I can about it. I mean, I definitely don't want to slide backwards with it. My doctor kept telling me about it too. He kept saying, that was really kind of, he was like, that's the thing we're watching for right now, just to make sure that you don't backslide on any of it. So please don't overdo it. Please don't try to,
right.
Stuff like that or whatever.
Like I say, be very highly cautious.
Yeah, but it definitely, it definitely gave me a different perspective on everything. I'm just like, just like that, as a beekeeper, your whole world can be turned upside down, because that is something that is not, compatible with all, that's what I kept saying to my, like my doctor, one of my doctors kept saying, well, just make sure you use proper body mechanics. And I was like, listen, if you use proper body mechanics, your knees are going to put your short arms so far away from your box that you're not going to be able to lift your box. I was like, so that is not compatible with beekeeping. I was like, leaning forward and stooping is how you lift a box, right? And he was like, and that's how you injure your back. And I was like, oh, I got it. So that's why I kind of, at the end of the day, I gave all this information about the hive lifter to my lawyer. And I said, if we do anything against the other guy's insurance company, we get them to pay for a hive lifter.
That's a little bit of nothing for what you're doing.
Right.
Yeah. So, like I say, the main thing right now, I would be we get to the point where I wouldn't do anything when it comes to the bees. I mean, you got everything pretty much done now, but
yeah.
And I wouldn't really be buying a hive lifter until maybe come springtime, and to see where you're at.
Yeah. That's really what I plan to do. I really plan to just kind of wait and see how things go, take it really easy over the winter and stuff like that. I had, before all this happened, I had decided that, like, I really like those Hive Alive fondant patties. Okay. Really like them, but they are too expensive. There's no way I am paying that money for them. So I decided that I'm going to make my own. So I bought this big 50-quart horizontal dough mixer from China. Took me a month and a half to get it by sea freight. Okay. And I have a formula for it and everything else. And I'm going to make my own fondant patties. But that thing is in a crate out in the garage. Okay. And has not been opened. And there's no way I'm going to be able to open it and move it around. Right. So I'm going to have to get some family members to help me with that and stuff too. But, you know, thankfully, I really don't even have to do anything like that until probably February or so. And then again, we'll just see where I am at on February.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that, you know, that was another thing too. So I'm like, you know what, I had this, you know, idea that I was going to pull that thing out of the crate and move it all around and everything else and figure out where I was going to put it. And I have to run it in the garage anyway, because it's the only place where I have any 20 amp circuits in my house. So, and it runs off a 20 amp circuit. So I have I put a bunch of 20 amp circuits in out there a couple of years ago to run a bunch of my power tools and stuff. So it's the only place that I can run it anyway. But I'm going to put it on one of these like portable things that it's for like a big tool or something, like a floor drill press or something like that.
Scissors lift or something.
Yeah, and it's on wheels and stuff like that. So I was going to put it on that so I can move it around and stuff at least, so it's not stuck in one spot. But anyway, so yeah, so that was the only other project I have, and I'm not even going to deal with it until the middle of until the dead of winter. So, and then we'll go from there. But luckily, before all this happened, I had gotten all my shims made and put together and painted and squared up and everything else and stuff like that too. So I basically had everything, I had a lot of the stuff that I would not have been able to do later already done by the time everything happened. So,
All right. So Will, what else did you want to bring up?
Well, I was out today and I talked to what's going to become one of the major syrup providers. I was out at his place this afternoon, and I stumbled across something in a conversation with one of his sons and then with him that I was never aware of. Looking at now I take table sugar and I mix it with my water. I try to heat it up, but I mix it with my water and I feed thin syrup. I never realized or never even thought about making sure the pH was right. Those guys are telling me, and I don't know what my pH is. I'm going to get a test kit so I can test. But I apparently, depending on what your water pH is, and then sometimes the act of adding sugar to it can change your pH a little bit. And apparently, we want our pH in any of the syrups that we're feeding to be down around maybe 5. And guys, I'm not real smart on any of this pH in the water, other than I know it has to do with the hardness of the water. But I'm kind of wondering that it sounds like it makes a significant difference with how they take it. That if your pH is too high, that you want to have it around that 5, and then the bees will take it more readily. So that's true. Kind of guys, I was ignorant to that. I never realized anything about that.
What do you know about that, Bill? I don't know nothing about it.
Everything he's saying is exactly right. What that gentleman's telling you, he's 100% correct in it, because if you look at the other syrups that some of the other bee supply places are selling, they're between 5 and 5.5 in pH.
Yeah, but what I'm getting at is if I'm mixing sugar water like I do, cook it and all that,
you still need to test the pH.
All right, and if I have high pH,
you need to lower
put citric acid in it.
You need to put some citric acid in it, a little bit of lemongrass oil, apple cider vinegar, anything that's a light acid to bring it down.
So now what sparked all this? That they weren't taking the syrup, or?
No, it
was just an open conversation that I had.
It's an open conversation. It's been a known thing for years.
Yeah.
And the lower the pH of whatever you're feeding them, especially in a liquid, the better they take it and the longer they'll take it.
Yeah, you don't want it too low, but you want it like at that honey around 5, 5.5, like you're saying, Bill. And guys, I was totally caught off guard of that. I never I mean, I knew a little bit about pH and the acidity of water and stuff like that, but never really considered it in my sugar syrup. So
Yep.
I'm gonna get I'm gonna Amazon me a test kit for pH, and I'm gonna test some of the syrup that I made up last week, and
Yep.
I have a little bit of that left. I want to
So-
see what that's at.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but he had the same conversation with me, and I believe if you add fructose to it, it raises the pH.
Yeah, I'm gonna
And you-
say I'm focusing on it kind of from my sucrose, making my sucrose, mixing
Yep.
table sugar and water, and
Yep.
I'm actually gonna test it at that point. But yeah, depending on if you're putting, HFC, what is it, HFC 55 or whatever you're putting into it,
Yep.
it all can make adjustments to this pH, and
Yep,
then you have to
exactly.
balance it down to 5.
And Brent is exactly 100% correct, because the reason you want it at that pH is because that inverted sugar is easier for the bee to digest.
Yes. Yep.
So that's why you want it between 5 and 5.5. You don't want it any higher than 6. 6 is a borderline, and you don't want it lower than 5. So you want it in that 5.5 range, so that sugar inverts and the bees can digest it better.
Yeah, DC's has a comment up there about also city water sucks for syrup, in my opinion.
It does.
I think that's I'm going to assume that's because of the chlorine that they probably put in city water.
Chlorine, fluoride, and the other chemicals.
Now I've seen, and this is just talking goofy for a second. I've seen with the RV camping side of things, you can get a fairly decent charcoal filter to put on like your water that you're getting at the campground before it goes into your unit. Yep. And I wonder, I know a decent charcoal filter will pull that chlorine out and some of that shit out of that water. So maybe that would help you if you're mixing with city water. I'm on a well, true. but I need to, it's been years since we tested to see what our acidity was, what our pH was.
Yep. And, Darren could be right in what he's saying. And, the swampy, dirty, nasty water has probably got a lower pH. So that's why they go to it. And DC is right in what he's saying. If you want to learn about syrups, start watching candy making videos. And it'll teach you how to make that syrup that they will accept and take down willingly.
I mean, I've never had any problems with my bees taking the syrup. I mean, they take it like within 3. I mean, they usually take it faster. Yeah, they take it faster than I was anticipating, and I usually, feel like, well, I should have showed up with more sooner. But
I'm up and down. You know what I mean? And it may, I'm sure it has a dependency on what's out there for forage and what's available. But
and I mean, I'm real simple with mine. I turn the tap on to as hot as it'll get, and I just dump it in and mix it with a drill. That's all I do. I mean, I don't.
As far as the dirty water goes, I mean, I think that the bees, they like the minerals and all the other natural things in water.
Right.
I mean, they'll go down here to where I have sawdust laying on the ground, where the sawdust absorbs the water, rainwater, like a sponge. They don't drown, so they land on it. And you'll have a spot of bees that like carpet bees, and they're sucking that water out of that sawdust. And the sawdust, there's tannins, as they call it, in that sawdust, and it'll leach out into that water, and it's minerals and things out of the wood itself.
Roy, I'm hearing that honey's typically around a 5 pH, whatever that means. And I'm hearing that's about what you want your syrup to be at, is similar to what the honey would be, 5 to 5.5, like Bill's saying.
Yeah. So like if you ever get a bucket of ProSweet and you test the pH level of it, test it, and you'll see that it's between 5 and 5.5.
It was interesting that I don't normally do anything with ProSweet or anything like that. I did pick up 1,500 pounds of it today, and I noticed that there was some citric acid being sprinkled into it as well.
Because the pH was up.
Yep.
They put too
So
much.
just another little thing. I mean, I'm going to start testing some of my stuff and see if I'm close to 5 or not, and see if it makes a difference.
Yeah.
Yep, very
Looks
interesting.
like David here. He, he's trying to put out clean water. Bees won't go to clean water. They like dirty water.
Yeah.
And David, if you put water out in, let's say, a tub, go out there and get some leaves off of trees that are, like, let's say, falling off the trees more so in the fall, or partially dead leaves. Put them leaves in there and let all that stuff get turned brown and all that gooey look, and you'll guarantee you them bees, if you put a float that they can land on and they can get into those where that tannins and all those minerals and stuff that are coming out of them leaves, they'll go to that water before they'll do anything else.
Yeah, when I had my bees here, my gutters here are always filled with leaves. And when I had my bees here, they were always in the gutters drinking the water. Always.
Yep. It's got the enzymes and minerals and whatever else out of them leaves that are breaking down
Yeah.
and into that water source, and that's what they like to do. All that stuff.
I've been still trying to figure out where they're getting water in my current yard. I mean, I've driven all around the area looking for, there's not really the closest major water source is the lake at Cadorus State Park.
They don't need a major water source.
No, right. What I'm saying is though, I think they're either getting it from like the animal troughs or,
Well, I was just going to ask you, do you have watering troughs around there?
Yeah, there's watering troughs and stuff, right? So that's where I think, because
but they're not
getting it from like a swimming pool or like a creek or anything.
Yeah, but the thing of it is, you're going to find them. They're not going to be in the trough. They're going to be down on the ground where the animals have splashed that water out onto the ground.
Yeah.
Yep.
And they're going to suck it out of the dirt and stuff. Or if you have a pond, a still water pond of some sorts, and there's a lot of algae on there, they will go in there and land on that algae, and they got the minerals and stuff out of that algae that they like. So all that kind of crazy stuff. So I know the one lady up here next to my house, or they have one of them fish ponds, and it's got algae in it. And, I don't think it's much of a fish pond, but bees are up there, sucking water down. All that stuff. Well, guys, it's getting almost 10 o'clock. I'm going to go ahead and we'll shut the chat down for tonight, and we'll see everybody next Friday night and down at Bees All Day on Monday night at 8 p.m. and all that. And
maybe we'll continue this conversation Monday night.
Yeah. And I'll be putting my Formic on Sunday and all that stuff. And then also I've got some Apricard where I'd put some on my second dose on my nukes, and I'll be taking off the shims and stuff, and probably try to make some videos this weekend, put them out. So until next time, we will see you all later.
See you guys. Good night, everybody.
Night, everybody. See you Monday night.